Welcome to Isn't It Obvious, where things are obvious. That's going to be the intro.
And welcome to Isn't It Obvious with your host Sera, and joining us is Phill and Micah, like usual. So my topic today, and I'm sorry, this is awful, with the caveat that eugenics is like an ethical minefield. Isn't it obvious that we need to start messing with human DNA and make stronger, better humans faster than natural selection?
I disagree with the caveat
Why?
of sending eugenics off to the side, because there will never be a global eugenics system, or like a global messing with genome system.
Just because there won't be, Micah,
No,
doesn't
but
mean there
that's the
should
issue.
be.
If that is where we're going to go as a species, then we will prove the Fermi paradox correct, because we will destroy ourselves, because we don't have a cohesive idea of what we need to make the species in the future, or what we need to turn it into. We'll have a fractal way of doing it, and because we'll mess with our genes so much, we'll just turn it into a weird class system, because rich countries will do it better than poor countries. And then that will stratify itself. And then, I'll be Micah Au Telamanus or something. And just be an 8-foot golden god, because that's what the genetics allow me to do.
I feel like just taking that from literature like that, I don't know if that's how it would really happen.
No, but you would definitely have a caste system based on the financial availability of various countries.
Sorry, but there's pretty much always going to be that.
Not if we, one,
bullshit.
Actually unify,
nice try.
Or two,
nice try,
have an
commie.
alien invasion.
Nice try, commie.
God forbid we view each other as the same species. Oh.
No, but if we just focused on making our species better...
But better in what way?
That's what I mean, that's the tricky...
Are we
that's
taller?
the ethical...
Are we sexier? Do we all have blue eyes?
I mean, that's the question, is like how you would just determine what is a trait that you want to keep and what is just totally cosmetic and not something that would be maybe quote-unquote legal to adjust for. I mean, you could, but that'd be totally black market, wouldn't it?
Depending on the level of messing aroundness. Sorry, Phill.
Add this caveat to, are we assuming that this technology exists in this hypothetical question, that we know what each of the 23,000, 26,000 genes that the human body has, we know what the interactions of them are all doing.
You can just send a Crispr in and go snip, snip,
right.
Done.
But not only that, but you know where to go.
I know, which is great. We're getting better anyway.
It's not great.
Also terrifying, but also great.
I mean, okay, we're, eugenics aside, because we're going to keep saying that, we're always going to be, what my question is, in this hypothetical question, do we have a full understanding of the interactions of how genes work so that you can send a CRISPR and then just do gene editing without any type of concern that you did something horribly wrong because turning off, the P23 gene had some terrible ramifications or something like that. Or is it P53? But you guys...
It doesn't matter, yeah.
You guys know what I'm saying. We already, surpassed that knowledge barrier, and we've already had a great scientific exploration done, and we know what we need to do.
Many people have died in the course of finding out what genes are safe and what we should never touch.
Yeah, so that's we're past that, right? In this question.
Sure, let's pretend we've done that already, and thousands and millions and trillions of people have suffered and died from really shitty gene editing.
But then, if we have all this gene editing, how close are we to just mass cloning?
Well, that's another thing.
Is that then
how...
not ethically immoral if we're going in and just editing genes anyway?
Well, that's the question, is what part of what would be allowed to be edited and what would be nope, not touchable, even though granted there will probably be people touching those untouchable genes, but my guess is that there would be a governing body that would say,
oh, of course, big government.
These are the conditional traits you may edit. These are the specific traits you can adjust for. But everything else is totally cosmetic, and that would be something, like you were saying, Micah, only the wealthy can afford. So only the wealthy can be pretty,
well, even to make
live
it
longer, and blah, blah, blah.
Something a bit more...
Of course, you could probably live longer, too, even if you were poor.
Probably.
But I'm thinking, being able to edit out genes basically, because like that's what a virus is, right? It's like a little piece of DNA or RNA or whatever that gets in your body and replicates itself and kind of fucks with your system until your immune systems are like, nope, this is a stranger, danger, done, we're gonna kill it and destroy it. Well, if you just had like some kind of gene editing tool like CRISPR or something that you could just be like, oh, we don't even need a vaccine, we can just annihilate it by flipping a switch in your DNA and targeting a specific thing, that you could literally just take someone's, like, so someone's suffering from corona, right, corona 19, although it might be corona 20 million or whatever by the time this happens, but like you would just be like, okay, someone's suffering from a disease, maybe it's HIV or something like that in the future, and they'd be like, okay, well, we're going to take your specific blood, we're going to test it, find out what that virus is, then we're going to send in this little customized CRISPR bot thing, and we're just going to have it injected into your personal bloodstream to kill that foreign invader. It's going to totally bypass your immune system because your immune system's too slow and it's going to kill you before your immune system can even help you. So we're just going to go, meh, skip that, and here's your CRISPR, and done. Virus gone. You're healthy again. Ta-da. No waiting, no dying from a disease. Wouldn't that be fucking cool? Anyway.
Yes, a lot of things that are scientifically impossible are pretty fucking cool.
No, first, I just want to say, like, that's kind of what we're trying to do with the vaccines we are working on for, like, the flu season, right?
Yeah, but that's preventative.
No, it's a reactionary, because you have some antibodies of a current flu virus that then, because we can manipulate and multiply that with relative ease. But we don't know.
So if you're already infected with the flu, giving yourself a flu vaccine isn't going to help you. You're already in the process of your immune system kicking in. The point of a vaccine is preventative. You give yourself a vaccine so when you do get the live flu, your immune system's already got a flag on that. They already know that that's an enemy and that it needs to be destroyed. Because they give you a weakened form or a dead form of that foreign body. That's how a vaccine works.
But let me ask you this question then. So if you had the power of true gene editing, you know exactly what values to turn off and on, wouldn't you just already input that stuff ahead of time? So like when you have like...
Oh yeah, designer babies.
Or designer babies, right? So that they're just naturally resistant to these like common colds because they just are already edited in such a way?
Well, the common cold is so vast. I don't think that's... No, because you're not... A disease like the common cold is not part of your genome. So, like, if you're just editing designer babies, you could turn up the immune system, but you don't want something that's so, like, autoimmune deficiencies, and then there's, like, people who have hyper immune systems that literally attack everything and anything, and that's, you know, that's people who go and get anaphylactic shock because their body overreacts to any foreign substance. So, like, people who are allergic to peanuts literally die from coming into contact with peanut dust. People who get stung by bees die because their body just overreacts, and they end up dying because they can't breathe, you know, because their body just way overreacts. So
there's probably got to be a sweet spot then, right? Where like this person's this person's natural reaction to these common colds are that they're asymptomatic, like they just don't show any symptoms because their body is so excellent at doing its job of being able to detect invaders, but not to the point where it starts to think itself as an invader. So like there's probably like a way to...
Asymptomatic are carriers. They're not affected by it, but they can spread the disease. So they're not exactly great to be... I mean, they're great for themselves, but it's not great to be a carrier. Like, that's basically Typhoid Mary. Right. You know, who killed all her employers. That are like...
Okay, first of all, I have a lot more sympathy for Typhoid Mary now. And second of all...
I don't. She could have just fucking washed her goddamn hands.
That is not what you did in Victorian England.
And also, people kind of looked at her like...
she was a cook, man. She should have fucking washed her hands.
People thought she was a monster, and that they wouldn't do it if they were in that situation. But clearly that's not the case today, right? So, like, when people are like, oh, I don't restrict my freedoms, it's like, well, we gave Typhoid Mary, like, a status of, like, an inhuman monster that didn't care about anyone else but herself. How terrible is that? Like, that's a rare human being that just should be shamed upon through all of history. And it's like...
Well, when people keep telling her that she's literally killing her employers and other people and isn't taking the steps, she could have literally taken a bunch of different steps. Yes, her life as a woman in that period of time was probably difficult. You can't really find a job
Well,
She's already got the skills. It's kind of hard to tell her, go do something else. Literally anything other than cook. Literally anything other than cook and just wash your goddamn hands, lady.
No, that's also under the assumption that humans are innately good when history has proven itself infinity times that humans are not good.
humans are just
I don't.
kind of jackasses.
Who thinks humans are good? We all have locks on our doors.
We don't all
No
have-
one thinks.
we don't-
No one thinks humanity is
We
good.
don't all have locks on our doors. Okay.
Yes, we do.
See you at 3 a.m.
Unless
Phil.
we're homeless.
Bring the
Do you
beer.
like the social distancing?
Be like,
Is that a threat, Micah?
a threat is something that he wouldn't want to do, right? A warning is something that he would want to do. So this is a warning.
I don't know. Both of them seem like things. No, I don't know.
So,
Anyway,
Let me rephrase it. Like, if you had designer edit babies that were like
smarter,
carriers,
faster, better, stronger. Yeah.
right?
What
And
about it?
then
we made the $6 million baby.
But
yeah,
there would be like $6 million babies.
that doesn't. I'll be honest. Like that.
We're just better.
Well, I mean,
How
a baby
is,
nowadays
like-
we're close to 6 million, so.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, let me ask one last question. It's like, how is it not gonna already happen? Right? Like, you guys are saying, oh, look at the science fiction. This is probably not gonna, like, in a.
Micah thinks it's not going to happen. I think it's going
But
to happen.
how
no,
is this?
Just not in my lifetime.
How is this? Like, this will happen. Like, this is going to
It
happen.
will
That's
happen,
my-
but it will cause more harm than good.
Well, everything we do causes more.
No. I mean, there is, if we have an ununified way of genetically altering and creating babies that is not of a unified special condition,
Like basically the UN is the one who's control. Like there wouldn't be any like this like there wouldn't be countries.
Yeah,
there would be
like-
territories, but it would be all under one umbrella.
yeah.
Nation.
And if it was a unified way that we're actually changing what Homo sapien is into a new species, then that could work and not lead to an utter hellscape that would have Chinese, European, and American humans, the human economists or whatever, are then vastly genetically superior to those from third world, but like African nations that don't have the financial wherewithal to have the same level of genetic engineering, where they're still basically Homo sapiens.
I was gonna say we're already kind of like it's a trend. It's not like strictly happening, but it has been noticed, and there is a theory that people as we get closer, global, like as our transportation gets easier, faster, and we can like talk and like we can go to the other side of the world in less than a day now. Like as that becomes, as we become closer and closer, we're going to start looking more and more alike.
Right.
And eventually we are going to start
Thousands
being
of years
more
down the line.
homogeneous. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's going to be a very
Right, it'll be a
long
slow process.
natural
Yeah.
natural
Right.
selection. But we're all going to eventually kind of become more like each other.
Which is fine. And then if at that point we go into heavy gene modifying and designer babies, that will be the better outcome than instead of now you have.
Oh yeah, we are not ready. We are not.
It's going to be real gross if we have it where it's based on nations as they are now, as opposed to a special trend to genetically modify our genes in that way. Until then, it has to be preventive, and we have to let nature take its course.
Well, and what do you think about, like, okay, so there's the pre-birth designing humanity from the womb, basically. And then there is after gene cutting, or
So
like basically like targeting viruses, like I was talking about. Instead of like targeting the actual human genome, you would just target foreign invasion type of like diseases. And that would be, that would be like the start of it. We'd start there, we're not touching the human genome yet. We're gonna just.
And what adverse reaction would that have on the human body? What cascade would that cause if, say, there's a COVID-30 or something in a decade? That makes another reemergence and we have another pandemic like this, but we're using that type of technology. Is there any adverse effect that could stem from that?
Obviously, I don't know that, but there could be, sure. Like
going in and editing
people,
of a live person. What unforeseen
that's what I mean.
consequences?
Well, you aren't editing a person. You're editing. You're not even editing.
Itself?
You're literally. Well, you're not editing. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know how it would work. But like in my head, I would think that it would work like you would program a protein to attack a specific set of DNA, right?
Okay.
And that would be not our DNA, not the human DNA, but the foreign
And this would be
virus
of
that-
a biological nature. So we've programmed a bacteria that will seek out COVID-30 and destroy it.
more like an enzyme, not a bacteria, but yes, it would,
That type
it would
of
be
thing.
programmed. Yeah, a protein or an
Sure.
enzyme or something that would be specifically targeting, like A, B, or no,
Okay.
it would be A,
And-
D, whatever.
And what is to stop someone from making an Ice-9 type enzyme that could destroy all of humanity?
Well, I mean, that's why it would be a very controlled, probably by the government sort of thing.
But no, even with that, what regulations would you be able to have and enforce on a global level to not have a wealthy-ish nation like Saudi Arabia that goes rogue and makes their own thing that can attack those of European nature? There's a certain twist in the genome that's like those of European descent then would be affected by this, and then their blood would extracoagulate and they would die of a heart seizure.
Well,
Or
you would have to,
attack.
literally inject this into every single person.
But could you not
Like,
make
would
it
be
transmissible by air?
airborne sort of thing?
Why would you not be
I
able to?
doubt it, because it's very fragile. Just like a virus is very fragile, not all of them can be airborne. Some of them just kind of
But
deteriorate over time.
some can, as I gesture at State of World Today.
Yeah.
But what's to
Well-
stop that from happening? You think of the utopian sense where we can create this thing that will take
What's
away whatever
stopping
problem.
people from... Yeah, but what's stopping people from gassing the fuck out of people? Like, that technology is...
Tokyo, 1996.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What's stopping people, though?
The highly regulation
my-
of those type of gases, but you can
Oh,
take...
Micah!
there was also...
Well, there you go!
All right,
Just
hold-
do the
hold on,
same
hold on.
thing
How about
with
this?
this.
What about the chlorine bomb attack at Midwest Fur Fest in 2016? Somebody took normal cleaning supplies you can get at any big box store and made a chlorine gas bomb out of it.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah,
highly
things
regulated.
yeah, but most people aren't insane and trying to murder everyone else because most people are
I cite both of
more
my...
reasonable than that.
I'm gonna recite back to 96 with
No,
the
my
sarin gas
thought on this
attack
is-
in Tokyo.
This is the same problem that people have today currently with hydrogen bombs, right?
Mm.
Like
Just
if-
any dangerous substance, any
super
dangerous thing.
weapon, and by just historical example, we haven't really been that good at controlling wonder
That's
weapons,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I think this is like, what is it, like Genocide Bingo or something like this? Like, okay, you could name probably 5 things that we probably shouldn't have the tech for now, but we already do. And the first one is like the classical nuclear arms that we have.
But what is the technological steps needed to have a valid nuclear weapon?
Well, you need a lot of money,
Right.
and you need
Access to certain chemicals
right,
And
access
a
to
very rare
and
earth mineral.
metal. Yep.
right.
I mean, if you're
But
going with uranium, but I guess plutonium works as well, and that can be synthesized. But that's still in
And then,
itself
you know,
requires
the
a lot of money.
technology to and the technology and equipment to
Yep.
do that.
And then
I'm not
that to
saying that
enrich it
there's-
to a point where it can be a weaponized. There are a lot of hoops you have to go through.
And then the things that carry it to your target, which is also expensive.
I don't know. Human
That's
life's
what I
pretty
was.
cheap.
That's what I was thinking about in the past. Was like clearly any not even super, any industrialized country or even a country like that is emerging, if they had a weapons lab, they could make this, right? Like North Korea made it. How? Well, I don't know. Like they can't even make rice patties, but they're able to make a nuclear bomb. Like, give me a break. But
Well,
lo and
I mean-
Matter
behold,
of focus.
yeah, it's a matter of like, wait, what?
What do we want? And
Can't even
where are we
feed-
going to spend our energy?
Right. It's like you can't even feed your people, and yet you have a nuclear bomb and terrible missiles. Like, yeah, but one day their missiles are not going to be so terrible, right? It's like, well, yeah. But then again, like, well, do they really need to have a warhead in today's global economy that you can easily move goods and services?
See, the difference between a bomb, though, and like a technology that could literally save millions and millions of lives is kind of different.
Well, you can save millions and millions of lives by using the same technology of a nuclear bomb and having it as nuclear energy. And
Right.
True.
I was going to say,
Fair.
like
And-
all technology is a double-sided sword.
It is.
If you aren't good enough to keep thrusting it away from you, it then can come back and hit you and hurt
That's
you.
the thing. It's just a fucking tool, man. Although I will say the nuclear energy certainly makes it easier.
Yeah.
well, that's kind of funny. Like, it's really funny because we clearly have a good example of, hey, humanity, you really fucked up, Like, you really can't handle...
Did you have to do that?
You
Did you
have to
have
have-
to do that?
99 times more nuclear arsenal to destroy the planet than you need. Do you
Yes.
really need to have that? It's like, well, because what if we did the failed like the first 98 times? Like, we want to have that 99 times worth of power. So you talk about like things where technology might be surpassing philosophy, right? Of just even world leaders. And I think, insert plot of Metal Gear Solid 4, gene editing is one of those like genocidal bingos. Right, like, oh, if you go too far here and you guys are just not caught up on, like, the rest of what does it mean to harness this, the ethics, the morals, or whatever, you're gonna get wrecked. And that's kind of how I see, I don't know, unsanctioned, not even that. It's just countries like Saudi Arabia or Israel or South Africa or any other type of place that has enough money for a decent weapons lab can make something pretty nasty if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. There's nothing to really stop them. Clearly, we are seeing that same issue with other wonder weapons.
Well, I mean, you know what that means, right?
We should be doing this anyway?
No, we need Gundams.
Okay.
And we just boil it all down into like one-on-one combat with these giant robots in a secluded area of Sahara that's far away from anyone. Can we just make like a 50 mile by 50 mile square in the Sahara that is just the battlefield for these giant Gundams?
Why is a Gundam like?
No, we should go to Venus or Mercury or something and have Gundam fights, and then we'll have them.
The moon. And then people with our telescopes can watch.
Yes.
Dark side of the moon.
No.
So it's like paper.
But what happens if you like throw the moon out of orbit? That wouldn't be good.
I don't know. It was fine in the time machine. Did you see how hot those Eloys were 200,000 years in the future? They were smoking. And those Morlocks, they were pretty sexy.
Gene editing.
So what you're saying is we should definitely make humanity stronger and better and faster and all better things.
Yes, and make it so we all look like Daft Punk, and it's just Daft Punk is the soundtrack for everyone.
We're just all really like attractive, and none of us will ever have a blemish, and it'll be just awesome. Yep.
Except for one flaw randomly given to you at birth. You are perfect, except for one random flaw. That is one of them.
Snoring.
Another one is you always get a pimple right on your like cheekbone.
But it ends up looking like a beauty mark.
No. But it always emerges Friday night at 6:30 and doesn't go away until Saturday morning.
I think people should go and the parents of these designer babies have to roll this gigantic wheel of fortune. But all of them are misfortunes for their baby. Just like as compensation.
No.
You're like, oh yeah, it's perfect in every way except for...
make that prime time. Make it a prime time
though?
show. We will design your baby to be perfect, except the wheel of flaws. If you answer the 3 questions incorrect, your baby will have 4 flaws.
Right.
So because everyone would have, say, this is just a technology that belongs to everyone, and everyone can, like, everyone is given designer babies, and we all have designer genes. But because everything is designed, if you have natural babies, they're all fucked up because all of your, like, you literally have to turn off specific genes. If you fuck your spouse in the future and have a natural baby, they would turn out like this mutant thing with like 8 legs and 3 eyes, and it would just be this weird thing because you didn't turn off the right genes and on the right genes, because we're so reliant on technology that we can't even reproduce naturally anymore.
If we take it early on in this...
How cool would that be?
Yeah, that
would
be
be cool.
If you think people are angry at like abortion clinics, think if that is that future.
Oh, that would be so great.
Oh yeah,
wait,
like bombings
words
of
ironically?
clinics.
Can you imagine how adorable? Actually, that'd be really creepy. 3-eyed baby.
I'm not the Octomom. I have the
arms.
Octobaby.
Yes, it would be so cute. It's like
4
an
legs,
Albator.
4 arms, 2 heads,
It's just
8 brains.
It's so smart, but it can only gurgle at you.
His name is Peter, and my last name is Parker. But a modern
analogy.
There we go. About it. Do you think that it is morally right for a mother who, in all financial, mental aspects, can take care of a child, but decides to have an abortion when she finds out that her child has Down syndrome?
Pass.
Well, I guess I'll take this softball.
Is that morally right?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's her fucking body and she can decide what to do with it. If she doesn't want to have that child, like, she doesn't have to bring it to term. That's just my thought.
I just want to add like this double-edged sword here again, right? As we're talking about that as a theme.
If she
here.
wants to take care of that child, go for it. You know, that's
this
her choice. It's her choice. That's what I'm saying.
This kind of bothers me a little bit because on one hand I completely agree, and on the other hand I also completely agree. But on my other hand, I just have to say
your
this
third
as a
hand.
natural. As a natural form of a natural deformed baby.
On one hand, I agree. On the other hand, I agree. On my third hand, I disagree.
The third hand, I disagree, and here's why. Again, I'm going to sound like a total asshole, but I'm just going to say it.
I'll let you know.
So, when it comes to women, it's going to be like, look, the official democratic policy is like it's their body, and they have some sort of control or autonomy, right? That's recognized.
Maybe a right.
Maybe a right, but we don't have rights for autonomies yet in our whatever that is. I don't want to talk about that. But anyway, we have a Ninth Amendment. It doesn't really cover autonomy, but it does kind of cover we have other rights that are not yet known or recognized, but should be. Moving on. The message is that, like, look, and I agree with this again, is like it's the person's body. They have a right and they have a choice and they have autonomy. They should have power over their own body. Like, this is just common sense to me. But the same messaging for the guy is, hey man, you kind of fucked up, right? So pay up. Well, on one hand, it's like, look, it's the right of the person to make and decide their own fate. And on the other hand, it's like, hey, but the guy, he should have known better. And these messages are side by side, and they're never discussed in a way that makes coherent sense when added together.
To what known better? As in, like, with an unplanned pregnancy type thing?
Like an unplanned pregnancy, the guy has no legal rights at all.
Sure he does. He can decide not to take care of the kid.
No. It is
he might have to legally pay. He might have to legally pay child support.
Right, but that is
part
not
of that.
That is not a choice of the man in the American legal system. It is.
Right.
It is on the woman.
That is true.
It's on the woman to admit that she can not put his name on the birth certificate. Thus, he has no legal right to that child. Apart if he has to go through a very long legal process in order to be recognized for that.
And I'm not going to say, like, whether the system is good or bad. I'm just saying that, like, it's weird to me where your question of, like, look, if the mother has this, what would the mother, like, what would be the ethics of this and the morals? And I'm like, we don't even talk about the father. We've already, like, went beyond that question.
When you spend
Well,
30 seconds to
didn't
contribute
ask the
to
father.
it.
What if? Okay. Here's,
on average, or just
you can ask
that's not the
question. You can frame the question in a different way. You can say parents instead of if a woman. You framed the question originally as if a woman,
right? Because I was
has
giving
a child.
I was giving that type of
but
autonomy.
if you frame it, if
Right.
you frame it as if parents have a child with Down syndrome and they maybe disagree on that. I still think because the woman has to bring it to term.
Right,
she
that's my
decision.
stance, which is why I didn't care about the parents aspect.
That's my stance too, but I do want to say, like, on one hand, it's like, geez, that's...
But that's the same for... It doesn't even matter if it had Down syndrome or not. If the woman decides that she does not want to bring that child to term...
My pose was specifically the child has Down syndrome.
Knowing that they have...
and that's the only reason. Other than that, they are financially stable to take care of a child. They are prepared to take care of a child. But
okay, so this is
flaw popped up that was seen prenatal that then causes the woman to have an abortion. Is that morally right?
I think it doesn't matter. It's your choice. But I think it's morally fine. Whatever. Like, I don't think it's immoral. I don't think it's...
That a person within their means to take care of a child, regardless of special needs. Don't
care. I don't think you should inflict that harm and suffering on someone who, even if they're prepared to take it, they can make the choice not to accept that.
Okay, well, this is why I add this other caveat to it. This is a weird question because it doesn't really matter what I think, right? I don't have a choice in this.
You have an opinion, not a choice.
Yeah,
I have an opinion, but my opinion means nothing. Like, just like the American voting system.
If this was your spouse, your opinion actually might mean something.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. So in that case, like, would I make the argument of a moral position or ethics? I guess I could try to say, look, as a man, I think you should do this with your body instead. Unless they asked me, like, hey, I'm not asking for your unsolicited advice. I'm asking for your real thoughts. What should I do?
Yeah, it would be more like, hey, husband, as my partner in life, would you be okay if I, knowing this, would you be okay if we terminated? That would be a we question.
And so then the answer to that would be like, okay, well then I could just rely on my default set of ethics and morals then.
Yeah,
Like
or you would discuss it. Yeah.
Right. So like this question is, I'm trying to skirt my way out of this.
Nope, you can't.
Just so you know. But the question is self-answering. If it's my morals and ethics, then I'll follow my own code of morals and ethics that I hope is consistent. And if my input is asked for, then that's fine. If it's not asked for, based off the way that the legal system is set up, like I don't really have much of a leg to stand on. It's her body, and the choice of autonomy is pretty clear.
Well, we can state a legal position as of now. 2 months from now,
who knows? And so,
Christ.
but then the argument of like, well, you have the baby, so you have to deal with the consequences, right? Is a strange argument to make, because although that's kind of the argument we make for the fathers or soon-to-be fathers, like you don't really have a choice whether termination or even access to this child is going to be yours or not.
That's true.
You just have to live with the fact that you fucked up, and therefore you have to deal with these consequences. But for women, it's going to be like, well, wait a minute. This is a different story because it's a physical body, and you can't just control, like, as a libertarian. Like, it would be really hard for me to argue that, like, the state should have not only access, but, like, direct control of what someone's own physical body has to say about it. This is a weird thing. Like, it's almost akin to a draft. Wait a minute. Like, do I have my own right as a human to live as a human? Like, this is strange that...
Or am I just a fucking cauldron?
Right. Like, what if the government says, look, no, you're going to, you know, we have every, not only control of your finances, but of your life itself. It belongs to us.
Your
It'd
body is not yours, it is ours.
Right. Then it'd be like, wow,
Yeah,
like,
nope.
That doesn't seem right.
Nope, that
Like,
is not right.
So I
If you
can't make
could-
that argument to the woman like, hey, look, that's not right because my opinion... like,
Now, if you could, in theory, if there was a technology out there that could take, a child who had been inseminated from a woman's womb and just plop it into an artificial womb, and the government or the husband who wants to keep the baby, but the woman doesn't, for example, like, maybe that would be a viable, like, hey, we want to keep this life, but you'd have to fucking pay for that.
Oh, like a test tube baby sort of thing?
I mean, it wouldn't be a test tube baby. It would still be your DNA. It would just
No,
literally be... It'd
It'd be a
moved
floppy
from,
baby.
It would be...
A
moved-
floppy baby.
It would be moved from a physical human person into an artificial womb.
So the Matrix. You want to make the Matrix.
Ah, the Matrix.
Sure, if that's how that goes.
All right.
I don't
Well-
know.
Yeah,
if that's how
but
that
in
goes.
that case, the question answers itself, because now it's like, well, who represents the rights of this Matrix baby? And that's the Matrix.
All right.
The Matrix can figure that out.
Pause before the Wachowskis sue us. And I will say, listeners, please send us your thoughts and concerns and questions and, I don't know, probably
I don't
want to
hear anything about... I don't want to hear anything about abortions and stuff. I don't...
Well,
no, like, that's a highly... No. Let's all keep it... Let's go keep it to the less derisive and less conflicting subject of eugenics.
Jesus Christ.
And with
uh,
that, we will bid you adieu. And please listen to our next episode. It won't be about eugenics.
Thanks,
Maybe.
Mom.
Thanks,
Coming
Mom.
in. Yeah, thanks, Mom.